Guy, a fashion model in her 30s, explained to a reporter from Verily magazine how being in the business of the fashion industry affected her. She said playing on women's insecurities has become so extremely pervasive in our society, and it's so damaging and so unhealthy for the models. But of course, also for the women, especially for the women who are viewing images of the models because they don't know how much time we spend trying to look good. We spent the past 5 years perfecting our bodies and our skin and our hair color. And we have a team of makeup artists, and we have a team of wardrobe stylists, and we have a team of hairstylists. And then we have a professional photographer, and then all the photos get photoshopped. So the end result is the farthest thing from a realistic photo that you could ever imagine. Women are seeing these images that are literally not real. As time goes on, the standards for girls and women has become more and more sexual and provocative. According to Dawn M. Szymanski, a writer on the sexual objectification theory, sexual objectification occurs when a woman's body or body parts are singled out and separated from her as a person, and she is viewed primarily as a physical object of male sexual desire. When a woman is sexually objectified, what is typically emphasized is a woman's breasts, hips, waist, legs, and lower regions. And these are especially magnified in fashion companies' designs. In a large amount of fashion advertisements, the girls are being portrayed in a sexual way, whether it is their facial expression, body positioning, or clothing. Girls and women are given the idea that if they don't dress like the models on TV or in the magazines, or even have the same physical features as them, then they should feel less about themselves. And because of the constant exposure, girls have voice how they feel if they don't have the smaller waist or the rounder hips or perkier breast. Then they do feel self-conscious about the way they look. No girl should ever feel like this from the way culture is falsely portraying beauty. Good evening. My name is Steinmetz, and I'd like to thank my panelist, Dr. Maxine Jones, Professor of Women's Studies at FSU, for being here tonight. Tonight, I will be talking to you about sexualization in the fashion industry. The fashion industry creates sexual standards that are close to impossible to achieve, which creates negative mental effects in women. Women of all ages are psychologically affected when the fashion industry exclusively defines feminine beauty. Models have even quit the practice of modeling due to the emotional toll it has taken on them. This is Kelly Mittendorf. She started modeling at the young age of 16 years old. On one of her very first sets, she appeared wearing a camp t-shirt, shorts, and Toms. But when she got there, the set was unexpectedly S&M inspired. There was a table for her to model on with cuffs and whips and various balls for various activities. And she said, I hadn't even kissed a boy yet at that point. Not only the young models are being affected, but also the girls who are viewing images of the models. Women should be able to feel like they do not have to be dressed in a revealing way to be beautiful, unlike what the fashion industry has made it seem like.
Depression in our society is not obvious when walking down the street or the hallway, but simply open your laptops, your smartphones, your tablets, and do maybe one Google search and you will be blown away. After my one Google search, I found that after a study conducted in this spring, 1.6 million Tumblr blogs were examined, and of those, 200,000 contained pictures, videos, and text posts of teenagers hurting themselves due to depression. Is it because we now have the technology to express an ever-present feeling, or is it something greater? Is it just a coincidence that school systems and standardized tests are getting harder and college acceptance rates are going down, and the pressures to be a stereotypical man or women are everywhere? Is it possible that this society, is the thing responsible for the increase in a disease that is more than capable of killing? And we don't talk about it much, because it's often deemed a phase, or hormones, or being over-emotional. Oftentimes, conversations regarding mental illnesses, such as depression, result in words being thrown around that are nearly irrelevant. Depression is not the emotion sadness. Depression is a state of being below neutrality. Sadness is an emotion that comes and goes just as happiness does. My biggest pet peeve is when someone comes up to you and says something along the lines of, I'm sorry, I was just depressed earlier. I'm so depressed right now. Depression does not just come and go. It's there. And it is the third largest cause of death among teenagers in this country, 4,400 kids commit suicide a year, and for every one of those, at least 100 attempt. So now I'm standing here asking you all the same simple question I asked myself when I was in the hospital. Why? But this time it's why we're not doing more to prevent this.
Like Megan Shinnick said, depression is a result of defining young men and women and creating a perfect stereotype. Mental effects from sexual objectification include depression, anxiety, eating disorders, and low self-esteem. 40% of girls who look through fashion media show signs of depression and are unhappy with their physical appearances. So if depression is one of the leading causes of teenage deaths, then why are we allowing something such as fashion to provoke that? Shannon McLaughlin, an ordinary girl who regularly scrolls through fashion media, says it not only affected how I was feeling about myself mentally, but also physically. I was constantly confronted by women with unattainably skinny bodies who were praised for the way they looked. Even though I was a size 10, it really affected the way I looked at myself. And this was only made worse by the abundance of diet fixes and skinny culture promoted by influencers whose posts were to broadcast to thousands of people every day. Many women, like Shannon, often feel body shamed and are being negatively affected by the constant objectification. The Dove Self-Esteem Project did a study in which 81% of 10-year-old girls are afraid of being fat. Globally, only 11% of women would even call themselves beautiful. 60% of teenage girls avoid life activities because they are too self-conscious to participate. And in Australia, when girls are asked about their top 3 worries in life, physical appearance almost always came up as one of their greatest anxieties. Consequences of hypersexualization could be avoided if the fashion industry took into consideration the effects. Where a healthy body image is not promoted is social media. Daniels, one who specializes in the studies of adolescent girls, studied how social media and fashion advertisements affected women. He exposed teenage girls and college women to one of 4 categories: sexualized or non-sexualized athletes, or sexualized or non-sexualized models. He did this to investigate the way in which viewing these images influenced participants' self-descriptions. Girls and women who viewed images of the sexualized models and sexualized athletes made more beauty-related statements about themselves than the participants in the 2 non-sexualized categories. These findings suggest that exposing women to images emphasizing a false beauty primes a feminine body-as-object mentality. The fashion industry is solely concerned about profit, which is one of the reasons why the phrase "sex sells" is used and women are sexualized. Marquette University did a study in which body esteem scores decreased in both men and women after viewing images of same-sex models, while body esteem scores of men and women in the control group who viewed images of only landscapes showed no change. While the fashion industry, social media, and influencers highlight physical beauty, a woman beautifying her character is far more important and valuable, and this is something that the fashion industry does not recognize. Jacqueline Spores, a beauty and fashion writer, describes inner beauty as a combination of your characteristics, originality, and moral compass, and how you treat others and the positivity that you project into the world. Proverbs 31:30 says, "Charm can fool you, beauty fades, but a woman who has respect for the Lord should be praised." Over time, one's outward appearance dims as one ages, and conversely, their inward beauty typically brightens. What is remembered by someone is the emotional impacts that they made on others, and not necessarily how attractive their physical appearance was. An example of inward beauty being overseen in someone's outward appearance is through Jesus. Isaiah 53:2 says, "He grew up before him like a tender shoot, and like a root out of dry ground. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him." Jesus is one of the most admired people of all time, but yet nowhere in Scripture does it talk about how physically attractive he was or praises his outward appearance. And he was not only known for his perfect compassion towards humanity, but also performed the greatest act of kindness. There are many role models for women who don't quite achieve the right message, although they do try. Lizzo, a musical artist, tells women that they can wear what they want, referring to what the stereotypical model wears, and still be beautiful. But what Lizzo is failing to say is that you do not have to be dressed in a revealing way to be beautiful. Women shouldn't feel like they need to wear something revealing, but should know that true beauty comes from their hearts. External beauty fades, but what does not fade is the positivity and character that you project into the world. Social media platforms such as Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter have public accounts and access to advertise in people's feeds. These accounts can be regulated by creating a new federal law or expanding on a current federal law, where if there is anything that falls under the requirements of sexual objectification, then the account should be set to private. If an account is set to private, then only the approved followers can see posts, including likes and comments. People can still have access to them, but they would do so by choice. Research by Johnson and Goldstein showed that a change in the way people opted in or out of organ donor programs made a significant impact in the number of people enrolled in the program of their country. The two different options that the countries received appeared on a form at the DMV. The one in the countries with less organ donors said check the box below if you want to participate in the organ donor program. And in the one in the countries with more organ donors said check the box below if you don't want to participate. In the same way, requiring people on social media to intentionally seek out and follow a fashion account would likely significantly reduce the number of people, and especially of women, who would otherwise see those kinds of images in their feeds. Girls and women are given the idea that dressing like the stereotypical model is the right thing. But with fashion advertisement regulations, this can be put to a stop, and women can begin to change the stereotype of beauty. Thank you.
I thought your presentation was very impressive. I also liked loved the Bible verses that you incorporated into your talk. Is it just the fashion industry, though? What about movies, and what about peer pressure? How do we control that?
Yes.
But more directly, what role do parents play in teaching our young girls the importance of inner beauty over physical?
Well, it's definitely in the media, like TV, movies. So that's when I talk about fashion advertisement regulations. And I think when it comes to what parents could do, I feel like fashion advertisement regulations, that would really kind of solve everything.
Think it would?
I mean, when it comes to parents, because if that was put into place, then the parents wouldn't have to worry about it.
It would be a start, but I think the fashion industry is just one component, of it all. I think it's so important to fit in. It's so important not to look differently from your friends. And so it's an inside job, so to speak. And I don't think we can trust the industry. We can't trust the media, because their job is to make money. So there has to be something that we can do outside of those forces. Mm-hmm. Something that starts at a much younger age. The foundation is laid by parents to church and community, whereas these outside influences maybe don't have as much influence. Mm-hmm. For example, I don't let my grandchildren watch the Grammys because I never know what's gonna show up there. We don't watch a lot of TV, and that's fortunate, but the TV is on in so many homes, all the time. So it almost seems as if this is a problem that is unsolvable. Or is it?
I would say it's a pretty big problem, and it would take a lot of effort to solve. But I mean, with the regulations, I guess if that could not happen, we could have more positive influencers who could, tell girls and women that, they have more value than their bodies.
And I think that's the key.